Shadow of the Colossus. To us gamers, this name holds weight. Anybody who's played this game to completion will describe to you a very profound, very deep, very impacting experience this game has had on who they are as a gamer. Now, with the re-release HD remake that's coming out for the PlayStation 4 next month, you may think, does this 12-year-old PS2 title deserve to be spread across 3 generations of console? Does this game deserve to be potentially bought 3 separate times? The answer very simply is yes. Not only does this game deserve to be preserved, it needs to be preserved. And I'm going to tell you why. Here we go. To describe Shadow of the Colossus as a minimalist game, I think, is an understatement. You're immediately met with this cinematic of this unknown person wandering through the forest on a horse. You don't know his goal, you don't know his plan, but after a few minutes, you walk through a gate. And there's this very awesome sequence where as you walk through this gate, the camera angle is very close, you're very claustrophobic maybe in the forest, and then you have this zoom out where you're walking across the bridge. And it keeps zooming out to the title screen to where you're just a microscopic speck on this bridge that seems like it continues forever. It sets what the game is going to be all about. It immediately humbles you, and you get this feeling of, I am very small in this world that I'm about to experience. You see this cathedral type thing at the very end of the bridge that's impossibly tall to where it disappears into the sky. And you just get this feeling as this title screen hits that this is going to be a very intense game. You're met in this cathedral by a few things. There is a woman who's on a pedestal who is dead. You're met by a demon named Dorman who sets you on this task in order to resurrect this woman, to kill these colossi. You immediately set out on your task. You're invited into this world that's very dark, it's very bleak, it's very colorless. There's nothing but browns, grays, blacks, with the occasional green of the grass. It's very void of any life. There's the occasional tree, sometimes the occasional lizard, but other than that, it's just very lifeless. It's huge and you can see forever. The point of the game is to use your sword and to refract light to be able to find where these colossi live. And to get to these colossi is a journey unto itself. Some of these are so far on the map that it takes 5-10 minutes of just traveling on your horse in a very just bleak, alone world. It's a very crazy experience to not be bored by traveling in such a void space. It's part of the game, it's part of the journey, it's part of what makes the game so good. And when you finally get to these colossi and you go to fight them, there's this just massive cinematic, usually with each one, that just shows how big these creatures are. And what's so cool is they're very Earth-like, they're very organic, and they make sense in this world. And each one acts basically like a puzzle. You just try to solve the puzzle, you try to defeat this colossi. Very cool concept where pretty much the entire game is boss battles. It's very intense. Most of them take minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes to accomplish. Some of them are extremely difficult and will get very, very, very frustrating. It's a lot of trial and error to figure out how to destroy these things. And when you finally do, it's so unbelievably satisfying when you're able to solve this puzzle. And it It's a very rewarding game. But with that reward, there's even more of an impact of killing this monster. Most of them hardly even fight back. And it's this very weird experience that you have of this high of this reward and accomplishing this goal. And then you have this feeling of, did I actually do the right thing? Did this creature deserve to die? And you have this experience over and over and over in the game. And it makes you think so much about what you're doing. And it's all part of this experience. And the game continues in that manner, but it never gets bored because each Colossus is so different that it keeps you intrigued and wanting to go on and on and on with this game. The game culminates with one of the most agonizing just finales from the start of the last Colossus fight to the ending cutscene. And it's so emotional, and it's a very magical experience to have this in a video game. Every single detail of this game was so lovingly put together. But to not talk about the music in this game would be pretty much criminal. The music is perfect. It is so magically beautiful and placed in all the right spaces. Now, some of the time there's ambient sound, no sound, or just, you're not paying attention to it. But when the music comes in at important times, it is perfect. It is intense. It is beautiful. You have these cinematics where the music is just, if you were to have somebody listen to it, you would think it would be composed by some beautiful concert sort of thing and should be in a ballet. And then you have these times where you're about ready to go into a battle, or you're in battle, and the music gets so intense, and it invites you into this battle and gets you excited. It's just so lovingly put together, and it fits so good. If you don't have the opportunity to play this game, I invite you definitely to at least go onto YouTube and listen to the soundtrack. There's a few people that have high quality soundtracks on YouTube. I might even put some links in the description for you guys. But please, at the very least, listen to the music because it is so amazing. And I think that's what makes any good game. Any good game that I think we can go back to and think about, the music was wonderful. The music had an impact as well on top of the gameplay. And this game definitely delivers in that department. Another thing I must touch on is the controls in the game. Now, if anybody would say anything bad about Shadow of the Colossus, they may complain about the controls. But I think the controls are built exactly the way they are for a reason. When you hit a button, there's almost a little bit of a delayed response, but your character takes the time to go through his well-designed, very real-like animation of movement. It's a little bit slow to respond, but it's purposeful. You're hitting these buttons in a purposeful manner. Everything in this game has meaning to it, even your button presses. If you press the wrong button at the wrong time, your character will pay for it. And the only way I can describe it is if you play the games like Prince of Persia back in the day, where you hit a button and he jumps and he grabs onto something and he does his full animation of pulling himself up. That's kind of what this game is like. You can't just sit there and button mash. You have to press your buttons at very meaningful times. Another thing that you may not know is the game designers, I found this out later in a video, wanted to make aggro your horse as horse-like as possible. So there are times in the game where you're riding your horse and aggro may veer off to a different direction. He may stop. He might not want to go. All of that was beautifully designed to make aggro feel as real as possible. Sometimes in real life, horses don't want to listen to you. And that's what they tried to do with aggro, and they succeeded very well. If you don't know that, you may get frustrated that the controls are bad. And it's not. It's aggro being a horse. So one of the things that I have to say is you need to realize that right away. Because if you're super into fast-paced games, if you care about your DPI setting on your mouse for your computer, this game may be very frustrating for you. But take your time with the controls. Let them be part of the experience and don't get frustrated with them. That is one of my advices for you. Some of my recommendations for the game are to play this game when you feel in the mood to play it. I say that because you want this game to be an experience. And some of the stuff takes time. So if you feel like you don't have the time to play it in that moment, or if you don't feel like you're in the right mindset, I don't recommend you play the game. Play the game when you feel like you're in the mood to play. Because I feel like the game's point, the game's purpose might be lost if you're not in that right mindset. Don't try to just rush through the game just to beat the game too. Enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy the storyline. Another thing too is don't use a guide to defeat each Colossus. Now you may get very frustrated. It may be very tempting, especially nowadays because there's so much stuff online and it's so easy to just watch a YouTube video. Try to play the game for yourself. Try to solve these Colossus fights by yourself. Because, like I said before, it just gives you that rewarding feeling that I think is needed. You know, you don't want to rush through this game. Figure it out for yourself. I feel like that's really important. And if you're frustrated, let yourself be frustrated. How would the character feel? You know, frustrated. So those are some of my recommendations for the game that I think would make the gaming experience so much better for you. If you're coming back to it for the first, or you're playing it for the first time, or even if you're coming back to it. The whole purpose of this video and why I'm doing this is a few things. One, if you've played this game and maybe forgot about it, which if you played this game you probably haven't forgot about it, you probably still think about it as a gamer, but to just encourage you to rebuy it and re-experience this game. Because of how much of an impact it had on me, I definitely recommend this game. But to those of you who haven't played it, who are maybe a younger gamer, and maybe you have some concern of the nostalgia factor being lost on you, that's not true. I feel like you can still experience this game fresh and new and experience this game. You just have to be willing to accept what you're experiencing. Take your time with the game. Enjoy a game that is a slow game. I feel like that's not appreciated very much anymore, but just appreciate the game for the pace that it sets, the pace that the game wants to be played at. So, I'm excited for the PlayStation 4 re-release, and I can't recommend this game enough. I could never say enough good things about this game. I could never explain myself in a way that you could feel the way I feel about this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I definitely think it needs to be preserved so that everybody has the opportunity to play this game. What's good about this game too is even if you are not a very intense gamer, even if you don't call yourself a gamer, I feel like this is an opportunity to hand those sticks over to somebody who may not play very many video games. Or maybe it's their first video game they've ever played. I feel like they can get something out of it. So, I don't know. That's just me. I love this game for what it is. How do you feel about this game? Are you going to buy the PlayStation 4 re-release HD remaster? I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to convey some of my love for Shadow of the Colossus. Always be gaming. Nintendo 64 fun.